Hey, what's up guys? So I'm going to answer a question for you in this video, which is what is the best deck? Now, I really think that there are several great decks, but I really feel like there's two decks that honestly have, the best matchup against a variety of decks, and you can make a card that, just completely shuts down your opponent, and you can win simply by just going first. Now, there are a lot of great decks in this format. Now, I would say, out of the, top 9 decks, I guess, that will be in the format relatively soon, there's one deck that isn't actually out yet, which is the Fire Kings, but it will be a structure deck, so you will be expected to play against it. But it's another one of those decks where macro destroys it. So that said, let's get started, and I'll explain some of the reasons why I chose certain decks and why I think they're good. But then I'm going to pick two, and I'm going to tell you which two I think that are kind of like the best, and my reason why, of course. But first up, Macro Rabbit, Windups, Mermaid Atlanteans, Agents, Chaos Dragons, Six Samurais, Yugioh, Dark Worlds, and the Fire Kings. And I really feel like there's two decks that kind of shine out of all these, and that's because they have one of the best first turns. I mean, honestly, Dark Worlds have great first turns sometimes when they can drag down you multiple times. But the thing is, I really feel like Dark Worlds and Mermaid Atlanteans, they suffer to like a one card. Like, you throw up a D-Fissure against, either one of these decks, and until they draw MST or get rid of it, they are really in a tight position. They really are, set up to lose relatively quick if they don't have the answer, to get rid of the MST or something like that. I feel like Mermaids can kind of play a little bit more because they have access to Diva, they have access to the Abyss Sphere still. They can at least get out 2400 attacker and attack over something like maybe Shockmaster if the Shockmaster, it calls monster effects. But I really feel like Macro Rabbit and Windups are kind of the best decks, and I'll be uploading 2 deck profiles. You can click on the annotations that are available on the video, or you can check the description box if you can't click on annotations, because essentially I know that the people ask me what I think the best deck is, or they want my opinion on it. They obviously want the deck profile. So that said, you'll get the deck profiles as well for these decks. Both these deck profiles are ones that actually have won from YCS. So these aren't decks that I've made, so I can't take credit for that. But these decks are good. Don't worry, I didn't make them. They're not awful. But that said, these are deck profiles that have been, there that have topped, so you don't have to worry about consistency or did I throw in bad card. Don't worry, these have topped. These are basically competitive decks that you can look into making. And the reason why I feel that they're so good is because you have the ability to first turn make something where your opponent simply loses. Like, for example, Shockmaster. You make this first turn and you call spells and you set Solemn Warnings. Your opponent is really set up to lose, and then you have all your back row. And then next turn on your turn, you call traps, and you can overextend and attack for game. I've seen it happen so many times in windups where they go first turn Shockmaster, call spells, their turn starts, they call traps, and then just go monster effect, okay, attack for game. It happens all the time because now your opponent that set maybe Solemn Warnings or something like that, they can't activate them, and then they can't drop Gores. So that said, Shockmaster, it triumphs over pretty much every deck first turn. Like, if you go first turn Shockmaster, you have control over pretty much most decks in the meta, except for Mermaid Atlanteans. If you call spells, it's like, oh, it's cool, and just use effects. But if you know what you're playing against, obviously you have to take that into consideration. Like, for example, if you're playing windups and you're going first, and you know that you're playing against Mermaid Atlanteans, you call monster effects. If they don't draw Dark Hole, they probably will be losing that game. But yeah, like I said, these two decks, Macro Rabbit and Windups, they're kind of like a tie. Like, I can't pick one because I really feel like both these decks can really be dirty. Especially first turn, because first turn in Rabbit, you have first turn access to a free Solemn Judgment, potentially if you successfully can get your Rabbit off. But the thing is, that deck also main decks Macro Cosmos, which really hurts certain decks like Dark World already. It hurts already versus. Anything that just banishes, or like D-Fissure or Macro, that'll hurt, Dark Worlds. And then also Mermaid Atlanteans, you throw up a Macro, that hurts them. You make a Dolka against them, that hurts as well. But also, there's Abyss Dweller, which you can make, if I'm playing against maybe Dark Worlds, I might want to make an Abyss Dweller instead of going for a first turn Logia. Depending on my hand, depending on what I have as far as back row protection. But Abyss Dweller isn't bad, especially if you go for Cobblezools. Let me go show Cobblezools. I mean, he's just a water. Basically, you can use its effect to boost this card up by an additional 500. So that's just a bonus that you get because you played a water dinosaur. But that said, Abyss Dweller. You make Abyss Dweller first turn against certain decks, you can just win. Also, Roach is getting a reprint, and I would feel like Agents and Chaos Dragons, they have a really good matchup against Macro Rabbit. But if you happen to be able to make a Roach, that's a pretty good card against Chaos Dragons as well, and also Agents, because Roach basically says no more Hyperions, and that they can throw Hyperion out like really fast, and that's the problem that sometimes Macro Rabbit can have if they can just go banish from the hand. Because remember, they can still banish from the hand to special summon Hyperion. You can where is it? You can banish from your hand, or your field, or your graveyard, which is it's kind of like unfair to be honest. But yeah, that said, you can just banish anywhere and just be like, let's go Hyperion, cool, attack over your rabbit. If they don't have like the negation to negate the summon of Hyperion. But yeah, Roach is just good because it forces 2 cards out, and it's pretty good against, like I said, Chaos Dragons as well as Master Hyperion, well, Agents in general. But there's also rogue decks that get high level monsters out, and you could just make that against them. But basically, what it comes down to is I feel like windups as well as the macro rep, they can set up a first turn that really sets up the game. Like sure, 6 Hammers can technically do the same thing, but they have to play Gateway, and they have to be able to have Gateway. If they have Gateway, you basically lose anyways, let's be honest. But the thing is, Gateway's at 1, whereas Rabbit's at 2, and you also have like Sangan to search out Rabbit really fast, and you also have access to a Guaiba, like a first turn Guaiba attacking over anything. If you run Lances, you can still make like a first turn Lagia Dolka. And like I said, what it comes down to as far as being the best deck, in my opinion, because this is just my opinion, these decks, you might not consider them to be the best, but for experience as well as what puts results on the table, these decks have honestly been topping back to back. I think pretty much every YCS that I can think of has had at least 1 Rabbit and 1 windup. More actually in the top like probably even more than 1 in each one. But yeah, that said, these decks really put themselves on the table. They deliver results is what I'm getting at. Agents can do the same thing as well. But the thing is, I really feel like Agents first turn, like, what's your best turn first turn Agents? Summon Gotchi? Go for Gotchi for Venus. That's like a great first turn. Like if you can go first turn, you don't draw any Shine Balls, and you could make you get to go Venus and get a Gotchi out. Maybe you can have Birdman play. You can special summon Birdman. Go for like a Catastrophe or something like that first turn, which I've seen people do. But yeah, you're pretty much set up to lose to Dark Hole if you do that. But that said, yeah, I really feel like being able to go first turn Shark Magician is pretty nasty anyways. What I'm getting at is basically making a card that basically forces your opponent to use multiple cards to get rid of when you only essentially use 1 card. Like sure, Shark Magician, that requires 2 cards, but you gotta put so many things on the board. Like you can throw up like a Zen Mains, you can throw up like Shockmaster Zen Mains. You can do a lot of different stuff depending on what the situation calls for. But yeah, that said, personally, I think the 2 best decks, because I don't really feel like there's a best deck. I feel like really these 2 they're so close. They both are just so great, especially first turn, like I'm mentioning over and over. Making a really strong monster where your opponent can sometimes simply just lose. But yeah, that said, I hope this helps you guys out. And if you want to net deck these decks, because I know when you guys are asking the question, essentially what it boils down to is you want to know what the best deck is, and you want the deck profile. So I'm already a step ahead of you guys. I've already uploaded the deck profiles, so you can click on the annotation or visit the description box below for you players that do want a net deck. Now, I have nothing against any net deckers, but just, as a heads up, people will be expecting these decks. They will know what to side deck against. They will know how to play against these decks. Where if you played something like Grand Soil Psychics, at that time, Jeff Jones won, and no one really understood like how the mechanics worked or like what to make against it. Roach is a pretty good card to make against it sometimes, but they can still exceed. So keep that in mind as well. But yeah, I always encourage people to make new decks. Maybe run something completely strange that you've never thought would be good, but you never know what can actually be good. Because like I made Black Luster Soldier Armor Arm with Pink Reaper, and that deck was really fun, and actually is doing pretty well. But yeah, like I said, I always encourage you guys to make your unique decks. But yeah, if you guys want that deck, by all means, the deck profiles are uploaded for you guys. But again, I encourage you guys to make your own decks. That way you can have more fun, because a lot of these decks are pretty linear, and every time your opponent sees like a Rescue Rabbit Summon or a Shark Magician, they're gonna go, oh no, not that deck. And then they realize that they're playing the same thing too, so it's all good. But yeah, I really feel like these are the best decks, so hope this answered your guys' questions. Sorry I can't pick one, but there are several great decks in this format. Like I'm mentioning before, Mermaid Atlanteans, Agents, Chaos Dragons, 6 Samurais, Girgas, Dark Worlds, and soon this deck will come out. It's going to be a structure deck, so maybe if you're on a budget, you don't want to invest in like triple shark, because I think this is the only expensive card in the deck. Maybe you can just buy 3 structure decks later on, because this Fire King deck will be good, but it will suffer from the same problem that Dark Worlds do, which is Macrocosmos, and the 2 decks that I'm mentioning, they can make Abyss Dweller really easy. So just keep that in mind, and I wish the best of luck to you guys that want to net deck, or just kind of experience some a tier 1 deck. Maybe you've never really played one. But anyways, best of luck to you guys. Have a great day. Asian Eyes signing out.